Hello, everyone, and welcome to MetaCast, the podcast of the Meta-Analyses Academy. I'm honored today to welcome to the stage Guilherme, Nelson, and Sarai. We're going to have an amazing conversation here about their careers, very different backgrounds, profiles, but also amazing careers so far. So I'm excited for them to share their experiences here with you. Before I pass it over to them, I want to remind you that what we discuss here is not affiliated with our institutions where we currently work. What we discuss represents our own opinions. And the Meta-Analyses Academy is a training program that teaches high-level research through systematic reviews and meta-analysis. I invite you all to participate, to join our wait list, and to become a meta-master like these three colleagues. So I'm going to go around the table for a first round of introductions. If you guys could share where you're from, a little bit about your background, and then we'll take it from there. Let's start with Sarai here. How are you, Sarai? Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for the invitation. So nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Sarai. I did medical school in Mexico, just finished this July, and I'm currently doing research at UCSF in cardiology, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. Nelson?
Thank you, Rhanderson, for the invitation. My name is Nelson. I'm originally from Panama. I did my medical education there, and now I'm a third-year chief medical resident in Bronx, New York. I'm applying to cardiology fellowship this year.
Fantastic. And Guilherme?
Oh, Rhanderson, thank you for the invitation. I'm a cardiologist in Brazil. I did my education in Dante Pazzanese for cardiology, and then I applied a fellowship at USP in core for clinical arrhythmology, and I'm a Master of Sciences from USP also. So I'm a meta master since last year. I have two groups that I'm mentoring, so it's a pleasure to be here.
Guys, I'm honored to have you guys here as part of our program showcasing your results at the American Heart Association. We're here in Chicago. That's why the studio is a little bit different here today. It's Friday right before the conference. We're getting ready to kick off American Heart Association 2024 tomorrow. And what we see here is different backgrounds, different levels of training. Sarai is a research coordinator applying for residency. Nelson is a chief resident applying for fellowship, and Guilherme here, our most experienced, who's already in attending, has gone through residency, fellowship, master's, is already in attending. So guys, what we share in common, the four of us, is that all of us have experience in meta-analysis, have abstracts in meta-analysis presented at conferences. So I also want to do a quick round of going around with just the types of results that you have. And I'm going to start here with Nelson, who I think is presenting his first meta-analysis in this conference at the American Heart Association. Is that right, Nelson? What are you presenting on? Can you share with the group?
Well, I'm presenting my first meta-analysis. I joined the Meta-Analysis Academy last year, and I work in a meta-analysis about the safety and efficacy of left atrial appendage occlusion in patients with atrial fibrillation. Really good results, actually. Like, the reason why we did this analysis is because the observational data that was already published was showing that these patients were not getting, they were having an increase in mortality and also periproximal complication. So because there was some mixed data, we did this meta-analysis. So basically, we found that there was no difference in mortality, periproximal complication in patients who were older than 80 years old who received left atrial appendage occlusion.
You know, Guilherme and I look forward to seeing the results of that. We both treat a lot of patients with atrial fibrillation. I feel like I do general cardiology. I don't do just arrhythmias, but like every other patient that I see in clinic is atrial fibrillation. It's amazing how the prevalence is going up.
Especially with aging, it's growing fastly.
Yeah, it's increasing really rapidly. And then Sarai also has a lot of meta-analysis already for someone who's relatively junior, the most junior of us here. Tell us a little bit about how many publications you have or how many abstracts presented at conferences since joining the Meta-Analysis Academy, Sarai.
So I'm in a meta-masters group, and we have a couple of abstracts published at ESC, Sky, and now at AHA. And on Monday, I'll be presenting my first meta-analysis as a first author.
Congrats. What's it about?
So we are doing a comparison between anticoagulants versus antiplatelets in patients with coronary ectasia and acute coronary syndromes. So I chose this topic because coronary ectasia is something very common in Mexico, not compared to in other countries. And yeah, I'm very excited to sharing those results.
Yeah, I want to learn from yours as well because I do coronary CT angiography. So I see a lot of coronary ectasia just because we do a high volume CT center, and then the referring cardiologists call us like, what do I do with this? Sometimes it's an incidental finding, these large coronaries. Sometimes it's aneurysm. Sometimes it's undiagnosed Kawasaki when they were a kid, and now they have coronary ectasias or aneurysm. So I'm definitely going to check that out as well. Guilherme, you're probably the most experienced here of the three in terms of results of meta-analysis. Can you share like when you joined the Meta-Analysis Academy, how long has it been? A little bit of your results as a student and now as a mentor to others in your group.
I started mentoring last year, October, November of last year, almost a year. And the first meta-analysis we developed, it was about left bundle air pacing versus biventricular pacing for patients with heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. It's a subject that's growing up fast, rapidly, and there's like a 25 RCTs going on, and we tried to resume data from the 6-7 RCTs previously published, and we found out that left bundle air pacing it gets narrower QRS, better clinical improvements, better remodeling from the left ventricle. So we got a publication in Heart Rhythm.
Nice.
And then we presented this also at the Brazilian Congress of Cardiology. And now we are developing another 2 meta-analyses with Brugada syndrome, epicardial ablation of substrate, and also with CVPT, catecholaminergic polymorphic ventricular tachycardia, about left sympathetic denervation.
So that's incredible. How many total papers do you have already like published, and then also abstracts? Just an estimate. I know you may not have the exact answer.
2 meta-analyses published, 3 in review.
Okay.
And I don't know, 5 or 10 abstracts.
And it's been about 1 year or so since you joined the Meta-Analysis Academy. Yes. So that's pretty incredible. I want to shift gears quickly here to talk about what motivates you guys to doing this. Something that I like to talk about always in the Meta-Analysis Academy is not just about the publications and the research, but it's the career implications for all of us. And I'll start here with my own story. If you guys are listening, you may not know this, and if you do, just bear with me for a minute. But I started doing research more or less at the level of a PGY1 internal medicine resident. I matched into internal medicine with some research, but not a high volume research. And then at the University of Miami, it's a very clinical program, probably as it is in your program, Nelson. It's very busy. But as someone who wants to do a competitive residency, all of us in fellowship, internal medicine, cardiology, we got to get research done. So I joined the internal medicine residency with this mindset. I just have to get research and publications done. And then I learned how to do meta-analysis as a way out. We all know the difficulties of doing research, during medical school, as a resident, even as a fellow and attending. So I learned how to do meta-analysis, and my goal initially was a fellowship. So because that's actually how I started. And during residency, I did about 20 publications plus abstracts, more than 50 at conferences like this, like the American Heart Association. It paid off. It helped me to match in a great program. I matched at Johns Hopkins. I did a chief year like Nelson here. So that's my story. That's why I started, and later on I'll talk about other benefits in my career. But that's at least what got me started in this world of research. It's just the drive, the passion for really advancing my own career. It's kind of a selfish way, I gotta admit, but it is what it is. That was the reason why I got started. I like the process. I enjoyed doing it. It's done really well for my career, and I hope that with my papers I contributed to science as well and to patient care indirectly. But I want to go around and ask you guys, is that the main motivation for you as well, to doing this research, these publications? Totally fine if it is. It was for me. But let's start with you, Nelson. Like what you told me, like in addition to the meta-analysis, you have like 25 other papers published. It's really incredible. Tell us a little bit about that. Like why do so much and what drives you for research?
Yeah, no, absolutely. My story kind of similar to your story. I'm currently working in a hospital, which is very very busy in terms of clinical work. And I initially started doing observational studies, but it takes a little bit of time to do observational study. You have to generate the data, you have to collect data, then do the analysis. And there's also data that are already available. You can work on that, on those data, and get publications with this data. But like during residency, you have a limited amount of time, right? You have a limited amount of time each day, and also you have a deadline to apply to fellowship. We start to apply during our second year, which is kind of different from my country. Like in my country, we used to apply when you were in third year. So you have a period of 3 years to get, a more competitive curriculum.
You match and you start residency, and then you have
Right
1 month
away.
of transition, and you're already worried about the next step.
Right
It's
away,
great.
exactly. So then I was thinking, like, I had a few posters, a few presentations. I have no background in research before starting residency. So everything that I did, everything that I learned was during residency, during my first year. But now I was thinking, it's taking me too long to get one single manuscript to get published. Then I was lucky enough, one of my best friends from residency, he's from Brazil, and he told me, like, hey, I am part of this meta-analysis academy. And I took he was part of the first course, actually.
Who was he? What's his name?
Lamin del Santos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Lamin told me, like, Nerson, you're really into research, you're into cardio, you need to be part of this. So I was like, I enrolled in the waiting list. I joined I think it was the second or third meta-analysis academy. And it's not only about learning how to do meta-analysis. I think it's also, being part of a community.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And definitely you can produce more meta-analysis in 1 year. Like you can do everything faster. You're making high impact publications. So I think probably when my first year residency, when you're working in a leadership position as a chief medical resident, your PY1s are going to reach you all the time. Like, hey, Nelson, like, we want to do this. Like, who do you think is the best research option for us? And I always say, you should start with meta-analysis. And they're like, with meta-analysis is the highest, level of evidence that we have. But actually, when you learn how to do it in an appropriate way, you're going to do a lot of meta-analysis in a short period of time.
Yeah. You get a good mix of doing it fast, like you said. You do impactful research. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And then you also get the autonomy. Like your first year resident, you can sort of do it at nights, weekends. You don't depend on the hospital, the statistician, the IRB, the ethics committee. So you can get a lot of things done. So I fully agree with that. Sarai, how about yourself? I presume that a big driver of your research efforts are that you're going to apply for internal medicine residency. Is that right?
That's correct. And during medical school, there's also very few opportunities to do research. I'm speaking from Mexico, so...
Oh, it's the same for all of us. I'm sure Panama and Brazil is the same.
So unless you are from a big city like Mexico City, where the big hospitals are at, there's very few opportunities. So I was really sure I wanted to do some impactful publications, but I never knew who could I reach out to. No mentors, no databases, no big hospitals. Fortunately, I did get to do my last year of medical school in research. But I'm very glad because the meta-analysis showed me a lot of research concepts that I wasn't very sure about, and I could apply them for meta-analysis and for observational studies, and also the timing for sure. For example, for this last year of research that I did at Mexico City, my first publication, observational study, it took me 11 months.
Wow.
And there's a lot of components that play a role here, getting the data, learning how to do statistics, a lot of components. But compared to a meta-analysis, we got it done we'll say 3 months. But it could have been faster.
That's the first one. The first one takes a long time, a longer time.
Exactly.
But it's still so much faster than any other type of research. Like you mentioned, your other project took 11 months. Nelson, also with his observational studies, it just takes some time. So you're applying for internal medicine residency when? Which cycle?
So I'm going to be applying next year for Match 2026.
2025 for a Match 2026.
Correct.
Are you done with the steps?
No, I'm in the process of
step 1 or step 2?
Step 1.
Okay. When is there a date for that?
Hopefully early 2025.
Okay. I'll come back to you in a little bit because Actually, if you don't mind commenting a little bit on just you're studying for the steps right now, I
Right.
suppose. You've started doing questions and all of that. How has it been? Now that you know how to do meta-analysis, have you been able to juggle studying for the steps and also getting research done so that you can ultimately have a really strong application?
Absolutely. Yeah. For meta-analysis, I like that I can always go back to the website or to
To
the
the classes?
program and
Yeah.
review them. And then I also joined like a MetaMasters group. So some of them are very advanced in statistics. So I can always like reach out if I have any questions. But for sure, the amount of time that I've invested or that I thought I will invest is less.
Yeah, and plus you see the results, right? Like you
Exactly.
put in time. Of course, none of us is saying that you spend 2 hours at night and you get a paper done. Of course, that's not it. There's definitely work involved, but you get return on investment of time. I think that's all of you guys are presenting abstracts here at American Heart Association. You're working on papers. Guilherme already has a couple of papers published. Like you see the results of your labor, and I think that's amazing research, because you all know that there are a ton of people who, in Brazil, they do iniciação científica, or like they do some research projects, or some people go to research fellowships. Some people go for residency and they invest time in research, hours and time and money, and they don't get anything done. And here you guys are with amazing results. Guilherme, I want to ask you specifically, like, what motivates you? You're a guy who's already done with training. You've even done your master's. You're well established in one of the major centers in Brazil as an attending already. I'm sure you probably work with residents as well, and you've trained at in São Paulo, best centers. At this stage in your career, what drives you to still do research? And do you have any financial compensation related to it? Is it the authority, the respect that you get amongst the cardiology and electrophysiology community? Is it another factor that motivates you to keep doing research even after you're done with clinical training?
Like, research and academic processes, I would love to apply for a doctor in the
A PhD?
couple of years.
A PhD.
Yeah. And at Rhanderson Academy, when Maisa invited me, I was honored, to be a part of the group and to mentor some young guys, some young residents, even medical students. I'm mentoring some residents in Dante, aside from the meta-analysis group, and we are publishing already. So it's been a really nice year where we learn a lot, not only how to do it, but to get advances in publication and respect for the community of cardiology and electrophysiology. And it's really nice, to stand in the academic field.
Yeah, it really makes you stand out, right? I mean, even in academic centers, there's a lot of people who are doing great clinical work, and they've had amazing training, especially the programs where you and I train for internal medicine residency. There are a lot of clinicians in an academic center. But even in those programs, the people who do research, they're treated specially. Like people look at them differently. It's something that you can't really measure, but we definitely get a little bit more of that authority and respect in the community.
For sure.
Of course, some people also get that by being amazing clinicians. Yeah, I mean, some people are just like outstanding. They're the go-to person to solve a clinical problem. But there's a special treatment, I think, still in general for people who get publications. The residents certainly love it.
Yes, especially when we involve them.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think it was Nelson who mentioned the community. And over here, I want to draw two distinct groups or opportunities. One of them is the research groups in the Meta-Analysis Academy. Sarai has called that the Meta-Masters group. That's people that we work with in our community. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I also actually want to start with the opportunities that you have going beyond just the Meta-Analysis Academy and taking this knowledge to a broader group of colleagues and friends. And I want to start with you both because Guilherme mentioned that he's working with some of his residents. Nelson, I think, on this meta-analysis perhaps is working with people from your program. Is that right, Nelson? Or
I'm working with people from my
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that, like having the knowledge of meta-analysis to the point that you feel comfortable and you can even go and take it to other people that perhaps don't have the same level of training that you do in meta-analysis. How has that been for you?
Well, it has been a great experience so far. Like when I I finished the course, I was a second year at that time. One of my POA ones, he approached me and he was like, Nelson, I want to apply to cardio too. Like, what we can do. And I was like, this is how I started.
Yeah.
This is how I started. This is what I'm doing right now. These are the two things that I know how to do. If I have to choose again, I will recommend you to go with the meta-analysis.
To start, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then he took the course and he finished the course. He was like trying to get an idea for 2 months. Like he was extremely focused on trying to get an idea. And one day when I was a third year ready, I was on call. Someone gave me a sign out about a patient that you need to follow this with this patient. And I was like, this is doesn't make too much sense. Let's see what the evidence says. I went very quickly and review what was the evidence saying about this recommendation and what my colleagues gave me, right? And then I was like, okay, there's a lot of controversy in this topic.
It's a special ingredient.
So beautiful. And I was like, let's see if there's a meta-analysis about this. And then there was no meta-analysis about this. I called my junior right away and I told him like, hey, I have an idea for you.
Nice.
I have an idea for you. I was in the process of applying to fellowship. So I was extremely busy. I was focused on my fellowship application. And guess what? He did the meta-analysis. He finished the manuscript. We finished the manuscript, submitted to ACC, submitted also to a great journal.
Nice.
And, now I'm trying to involve more residents, my first year, my second year residents, to be part of the community. And also, like, as you mentioned, like in a hospital in which you're working all the time, clinical work, it takes a lot of sacrifice. And also you have to be very perseverant also.
It's pure grit.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
grit. Yeah.
But it's not impossible.
No, totally not. Yeah, you and I both did it, so it's great. Guilherme, you also working with residents, you said, people who may not yet have gone through the training in meta-analysis, but you are the expert. You know how to do meta-analysis. How has it been working with other people, like even though you're maybe the one that are training them potentially?
It's very nice, to see the growth. They fastly growth. In 1-2 months, they know how to do the steps, to collect data, to read the papers, and then do the statistics and write the manuscript and submit the journal, submit it to congresses. It was really nice to see the growth of them. And some of them are applying for the meta-analysis group now to participate in the course, to attend the course. So
nice.
It's really growing there.
Nice.
And there are some colleagues from Dante that attended the course, like Camila.
Yeah, she's a rock star.
Yes, phenomenon.
Yeah.
Lots of publications.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys certainly leave a really amazing reputation for us at Dante Pazanese, you and Camila. Yeah, that's great. I talk to people from there. They're like, oh, yeah, I know Guilherme, I know Camila. Like, people talk to me about that all the time. And you also are a leader in our expert group. We've worked with some of our students. Can you just share a little bit that perspective of being a mentor to people who sometimes are very junior, second, third year medical students who don't know cardiology yet, don't know electrophysiology, but they learn the techniques, the methods of meta-analysis pretty well, don't you think?
Yes, no, it was impressive to see them because, when I was a medical student, like first or second year, I didn't know anything about research. My first contact was during internship, 5th, 6th year of medical school, during doing my graduation project to end the graduation. So just one paper, observational, cross-sectional study that went to a minor journal that doesn't even exist anymore.
You're lucky you got it published. Most people don't even get it published.
So I didn't have any contact with research, and now I have mentees for the second or third year of medical school who know everything about meta-analysis. They can write a paper from the beginning. They can collect data, do the statistics and everything right from the beginning to the very end. So it's really impressive.
Yeah. I think you worked with Elisio maybe, or no?
One project.
Yeah, so,
I revealed one project.
So this person, there's the student that I'm talking about, Elisio, he's like from a small part in the northern of Brazil, a small town. state of Pará, for those who are from Brazil, and he published like a first author paper in heart rhythm. It's unbelievable. Like he's
Amazing.
a third year med student from a small town in Brazil, and like as Guilherme did, I was looking back when I was a third year med student. Like I had no clue about any of this. I was trying to like figure out internal medicine in the beginning. It's pretty amazing. And in ESC, European Society of Cardiology in London, just a few months ago, one of our students, also from Piauí, from the northeastern part of Brazil, second year med student. I went as a second year med student. I didn't even know what was European Society of Cardiology. And these kids are there for kids because they're so junior. They're there presenting in these amazing conferences. So it's really incredible what people are able to do. Sarai, how about yourself? Who have you worked with in our community?
So it's been really amazing because I have colleagues from India, from Egypt, from Lebanon, from Tunisia,
Wow.
from Thailand, me from Mexico. So whenever we had to schedule like a meeting,
It's a real challenge, right?
I had to like look up the
time
schedule,
zones.
the time zones, and I even have them like saved on my phone to know if I can text them, and I don't want to like be waking them up at 1 a.m. It's been fun, and for sure, this or learning how to do meta-analysis has opened a lot of more doors to more research experiences. Like right now, I'm doing research in San Francisco, and I'm really grateful for that. And also like PIs appreciate like they know that you have the knowledge, so that helps a lot for sure. And also I've been getting to meet a lot of amazing people, a lot of amazing doctors, mentors, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, there's all the networking behind it too. You mentioned something that we have to highlight here, which is when you're doing the networking that comes from doing research and publications, people, especially junior, when they're very junior, they misunderstand networking. So I think it's important for me to highlight this. If you, I open questions for people on Instagram, and they will ask me questions, and they say like, "How do I go to a meeting and do networking?" Like, people think that networking, again, mostly junior folks, think that networking is like you meet someone at a conference, and that person will help you in your career, will help you get an interview, will help you match in a program. But that's not how it works. Networking is a relationship that you have to build. So you may meet someone at a conference, or may meet someone, in your clinical work in the hospital, doing a research fellowship or being a research coordinator. But that networking that's going to work out is the networking that you get stuff done together.
Exactly.
You have to bring value. The person will mentor you, especially if you're a junior and there's a person who's more senior, like Guilherme working with his students in the Meta-Analysis Academy. But you have to bring value to the table. It's a relationship that has to be built. And when we're in residency, it's a lot of, you get to do that with clinical work, because people see you working, internal medicine wards, in clinic and all of that. But when you're applying for residency, you have the few people in your med school, but if you want to network with someone outside, it has to be for research. There's no other way. And then, like Elise, for example, is working with Guilherme and others, because you get the opportunity with meta-analysis to also work with people remotely. Like you're working with people remotely. And in the research fellowship, one of the most powerful things that you can do to cause a good impression, in addition to doing a good job on your assignments, on your responsibility, is, hey, by the way, I also have this other project that I'm working on, and would you like to be involved? We have lots of our students who've built strong networking within their research fellowships by bringing in ideas for research. One of them that comes to mind is Gabriela. She matched into general surgery at Harvard. It's really a historic event. And she did a research fellowship in Harvard, but then she used to work on their projects, and then she used to do a meta-analysis every 3 months, and invite her attendings to participate. That's the kind of networking that really works, You as a chief resident, I'm sure you get a lot of questions from residents, Nelson, early on, junior residents, people who are applying on these matters, on research, on networking, on how to really increase your chances for applications, for a successful application. I want to get your insights on all of this. Anything you want to comment on, like what I've just mentioned?
So you were right, you have to bring something to the table. You need to bring something to the table because, for example, you're very busy in your clinical works, and on top of that, you're doing research. And technically, it's really difficult to teach someone research from scratch. It's very challenging. It takes a lot of time. So I have a kind of funny story. Like when I started to do my observational studies, we were pretty much running off of ideas, right? And then I was like, in the middle of the meta-analysis, the meta-analysis academy, probably like week 5 or 6. And then I told my mentor, like I'm also learning to do meta-analysis. And he was like, his face changed completely. He was like, okay, now we're talking about a different thing. Like I run out of ideas with observational study. We have done pretty much everything. But with meta-analysis, I mean, like in that meeting, he gave me 2 research ideas, like right away.
Right.
Because he's an expert in his field.
Right.
And he was like, okay, there's a meta-analysis. We can do a meta-analysis about this. We can do a meta-analysis about that. And just run the data, call me to discuss their results and see how it goes. But this is what you were saying, you have to have the tools to improve your networking also.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I want to ask you guys a little bit about your current positions. As I said in the beginning, the Meta-Analysis Academy and what we do is much more than just about research and publications, about careers. I want to be able to help people out, in their careers as a whole. And you occupy positions that I think are the goals and the ambitions of a lot of our listeners. Ultimately, a lot of us want to be like Guilherme, who's already an attending in a major academic center. Sarai wants to match into internal medicine. and then a lot of people want to get a research position in the U.S. So you're our most junior person on the table here, Sarai, but still a lot of people look up to you. So let's go around and talk a little bit about your day-to-day activities and like what's it like to do the job that you do and tips and tricks for people to do well in that position. So you're doing a research coordinator position right now. Can you describe a little bit of what that job is like, what kind of research opportunities you get, if you're enjoying it, the position, if you recommend for people who want to apply to internal medicine that they also do sometime as a research coordinator or as research fellow? Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah. So I'm currently doing research in cardiology in critical care. My PIs are amazing.
Yeah,
and our studies are PI initiatives. So we're currently studying cardiogenic shock and also a lot of data entry for patients admitted to the CICU.
That's the cardiology intensive care unit.
Exactly. I really enjoy my coworkers. All are the best. All the opportunities that we get at an academic center. Besides my job, there's more like benefits, like educational benefits that I can use.
You can participate in like the clinical talks as well?
I'm able to join.
Great. Do you get to rotate in any of the clinical service? Probably not, right?
I haven't done that, but hopefully in the future.
How many months have you been a research coordinator?
4 months.
4 months.
So,
okay. So you're still a junior still.
Exactly. So first months is a lot of training. So I just wanted to like finish that and then like staying on top of all my on top of my to-do list.
Yeah.
But I'm like definitely looking forward, like maybe next year, to be on ground rounds or having a more relationship with residents. And there's a lot of opportunities about being inside. Like I'm able to get to know the other attendings, the residents, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of learning.
Let me ask you a question related to that, which is the difference between a research coordinator and research fellowship position. So I'm going to give my high-level overview, and I want you to complement with your own experience. So generally speaking, when people want to come before residency to do some time in research in the U.S., they come as there's a research coordinator or a research fellow. Did you do a research fellowship?
No.
No, yeah, I didn't either. I went straight into residency. We can talk about the pros and cons of that. But a lot of people, especially as residency becomes more competitive, has started to do like a research positions for 1 or 2 years before they apply. It gives you time also to study for the steps if you haven't yet. So you get more research, you get networking. So there's a lot of benefits. But people sometimes come as a research fellow where you are functioning more on the role of leading research projects or actually taking more ownership of projects. And a research coordinator has a little bit of that, but mostly also administrative tasks like filling in the data, the collection sheets, and reporting to the ethics committee or reporting to the sponsor of the studies. And so there's a lot of administrative tasks, generally speaking, involved. But research coordinators' positions are always paid because you're doing some sort of like administrative position. And then research fellowship positions sometimes are essentially volunteer work. So the question I want to ask you specifically is whether you have to add anything to that or if you overall agree with my assessment. But as a research coordinator, have you also had the opportunity of getting your feet wet in the actual research and being potentially eventually, I know the projects take some time, but eventually being co-author in some of these studies?
Yes. My PIs know what I'm looking forward after this
That's
position.
amazing. Yeah.
So they're very open to new ideas, sending proposals to the data entry organization, and they're also like very open to contribute to that. I did want to highlight something. Something that I really like so far is that I'm able to have access to the electronic medical record.
Okay.
So we use Epic. So I've had the opportunity to I've got like I'm learning all the hacks on how to do charting and all the abbreviations. I have like a long list of like the medical terms and the abbreviations. So yeah, that's another big highlight.
You're gonna be a super user when you become a POA1.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm looking forward to that.
That's actually a term, an Epic super user. Yeah. I just want to wrap up this conversation about research fellow, and then I'm going to ask Guilherme a question. But I just want to briefly give also my insights, and happy to take your guys' opinion as well, on the advantages and disadvantages of doing a research coordinator, research fellowship position before residency. The advantages we kind of talked about: you get to meet people, you get sometimes you get amazing mentors like Sarai, you get involved in projects, you get some extra time before you apply, networking, all these positive things. The downside, the major one to me, is time. It's time, because 1 to 2 years spent in between, right before you apply, could be 1 to 2 years later on dedicated to subspecialty training, or at the very least being in an attending where you make more money. So it's time and the financial implications of it. When we're very young and out of medical school, a lot of times we have supports of our parents, not everyone, of course, but we don't generally think about that. But when you're like a PGY 9, like I did 9 years of residency and fellowship, medicine, chief, cardiology, imaging, and then you're like, oh my God, I just want to be done with this, you know? So the main disadvantage is time. The advantages are the ones we spoke, and you also get a lot of skills. You actually learn research, and you learn how to coordinate a clinical trial maybe, or to apply to the IRB and all these things. But it does cost you. It costs you time, and it costs you financial like implications down the line. Having said that, you're blessed because you're in a great center with great mentors. Not all people get that opportunity. Sometimes people go and they spend the 1 and the 2 years and they don't publish, they don't get good mentors, and then it ends up really being like...
And sometimes they're like volunteering.
Yeah, and sometimes you're not getting paid. Yeah, especially in expensive as cost of living is right now, that could be a problem. So we have other podcasts here in MetaCast speaking with research fellows, exploring this in detail. So make sure you guys check out those other sessions. I'm about to record one in a little bit with a research fellow as well in Minneapolis. So we're going to talk about all of this in more detail. Guilherme, what's your day-to-day like as an electrophysiologist? I guess the best term in Portuguese, translated from Portuguese to English, would be a clinical arrhythmia specialist.
Yes.
How do you spend your time between clinic, which is ambulatório in Portuguese, like outpatient, or also in the hospital? Do you have any dedicated research time, or are you busy? What's your day-to-day life like?
It's a full-time job between inpatient in the hospital and then outpatient clinic, and also reporting exams like Holter, ambulatory blood pressure monitoring, treadmill tests, cardiopulmonary exercise tests, and devices programming like ICDs.
Nice.
And stuff. And in Brazil, unfortunately, we don't have dedicated research time. You know, it's really difficult. So meta-analysis is a really good way, you know, to get involved into an academic method and publish and learn how to do research, because there in Brazil it's really difficult, you know, to have dedicated time. I've spent like a month in Barcelona last year, and they really have, amount of time dedicated to research after they finish their routine. In Brazil, it's really difficult, Most of us work as full-time attending clinicians, and then they need to do it after, like at night, on weekends.
Yeah, it's tough, my friend. I can tell you that I face the same dilemma here. I'm a clinical person as well, even though I'm in an academic center. I have very little protected time for research. But you're in an academic center. We talked about all the reasons, the good reasons to publish. You get a little bit of respect as you do that. It's good. We all enjoy doing it. But yeah, for us who are clinicians full time, it's hard work. And then the meta-analysis is nice because it fits into that, for sure. It fits into that busy schedule. Nelson, tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a chief resident.
Okay, so it's 24/7 work. Like my phone is ringing right now, and I received like 2 or 3, 4 calls when I was in the cab on my way here. It's amazing, we go through medical school. We learn how to treat patients and deal with diseases, but we don't get like too much admin exposure during our medical education. At least I didn't have it. Like when I did my med school in Panama, then I did my internship, I didn't have any admin exposure. And I think that this is a great opportunity to have some sort of administration exposure, which is great because you don't know when are you going to be in a leadership position in the near future. What we do basically, it's scheduling. We also are going through the process of interviewing applicants for internal medicine residency right now. But for me, the reason why I became a chief medical resident is I tried to be the mentor that I didn't have when I was a first year. Like one of the things that I really recommend for everyone who is starting in the world of medicine and research is to have a great mentor. Right? Like someone who can guide you through this process and tell you like, you shouldn't do this, you should do this. Like I did this and I failed, like it's going to save you a lot of time. So for me, like I always tell my co-chief, like for me, the PUA ones, the first year residents are like my kids, they're my kids. But the second year residents is a little bit different. They're going through a different process. They're more focused now on applying to fellowship. You just want to be there and support them and guide them also. It's a great experience. I'm really enjoying this experience. Like previous chief were telling me like, it takes a lot of you. Actually, it does take a lot of you, but it's a beautiful experience.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of things I want to highlight. One is we all remember who our chiefs were our first year when we were first years.
Absolutely.
We all do, whether they were good or bad.
Exactly.
So you want to be that person that people are going to remember positively. Being a chief was one of the most transformative experiences in my professional academic career. I always loved to teach. I was able to develop that. Obviously, help to match into a strong fellowship program. I learned so much about leadership, communication, about career development. I interviewed a lot of people for residency and gained a lot of insight into that process. I think it made me a better communicator. So again, the disadvantage is time is what we were talking about earlier. You spend a year, there's only so much time you can invest in training, and you're always trading that future potential income as an attending for more training now. That's true if you decide to do fellowship as well. Of course, it's decisions that we make. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think overall it was a great investment of time. Doing this 1 year as chief was really great. So I fully recommend it.
Like as you mentioned, like I also developing more soft skills like communication, being more assertive in the way I talk and communicate with my co-peers, my co-residents.
How many chief residents are you guys?
We're 7.
Yeah, big program. How many residents per year?
We are 105.
Total?
Yeah.
Total, yeah. Yeah, our program was similar. We're 7 chiefs, 40 per year, so about 120 or 130 residents with the prelims. So yeah, it's challenging. I hope you're not the guy doing schedules for those.
Actually, the one who is doing schedule, right?
You and I, it's tough. It's tough doing schedule. And then they call. And when I went my year as chief, like all the women decided to get pregnant.
Oh, it was my God.
It was like filling in the schedule. I feel you. Was painful. All right, guys, we're coming to an end here. This has been it's unbelievable how quickly time flies. let's go around just for a final word of recommendations for people who maybe listen to us. Like I said, people are inspired by your stories. You, even though some of you are junior or still in training and growing your career, you're definitely occupying positions that a lot of people want to be in the next year or two, and in 5 years and in 10 years. So congratulations to all of you. It's an honor to have you guys as part of the community. Congratulations to all of you presenting at American Heart Association. But just one final word of like advice and inspiration, just for listeners, whether they're med students, residents, interns, people who look up to you. Let's start with Guilherme.
My advice is, always bring something to the table and be assertive. Try to learn from our mentors and try to bring something new. Be objective, assertive. Try to participate, learn right from the beginning. Don't wait. I need to apply for the fellowship. Try right from the beginning of our medical school, doing an internship, and also research is a pretty good way, to get yourself involved in academic world, but also in a real practice for the clinician part. Also, you learn a lot, not only to do research, but also medical knowledge you can learn also when you do research.
You can learn and you can become an expert. It's like you can really be the person who knows a lot about one specific field that has a lot of value. Great advice. Nelson?
Well, for me, it's going to be for those persons who are listening to us and they are either medical students, internal medicine residents, or just doctors who are applying to US or are looking for research opportunity. I would say just work hard. You have to work really hard. Don't give up. And always, as I mentioned before, try to find a good mentor who can, lead you to better outcomes and everything. Not only a mentor about medicine and research, is also about, your personal life.
Yeah.
So
yeah. The advice about mentors is also another really great advice. And I'll complement that, actually not aligned with what you said, which is you can use the research to find those mentors. Like some of the best people that I've connected with in my career were people that, also taking Guilherme's advice, was I brought something to the table. I started a conversation. I started a relationship. That's what networking is. Bringing an idea for meta-analysis, and then they gave me a project. I did well on that. And then and some of these mentors, like I've left institutions and I have mentors over there because I did research with them. They trust me. They know that I can get the job done, and cherish those relationships, like you said, and keep them long term. Like there's some people that I'll spend like 3 years without talking to them, and then I have a problem, and then like I'm gonna call that person. Especially if it's like life decisions. Like I remember when I was deciding where to go for a cardiac imaging fellowship, I had a few options, and I sent an email to someone who I knew from a long time ago from Florida, who I knew would give good advice. Sarai, what's your word of inspiration for people who are inspired by you?
So I still got a long road ahead. I want to be a cardiologist, so definitely be consistent, perseverant. And yeah, hard work pays off. And as everyone said, bring something to the table.
Nice. Very good. Well, guys, it's been an honor to have you here on the show, on the MetaCast, the podcast of the Meta-Analysis Academy. You guys excited for American Heart Association?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sure. Starting tomorrow. We have a dinner of the Meta-Analysis Academy on Saturday. You guys are all coming?
7 p.m., yep.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to do a nice get-together of our group here in Chicago. There's a lot of us. This is the largest conference ever in the history of the Meta-Analysis Academy in terms of attendance. We have, I think, 40 people here. Just in the dinner, I think we have 37 confirmed. And that's just like people who are presenting. There are, for every project, I bet there are 4, 5, 6 co-authors around the world who are represented here. So we probably have more than 200 people represented here in Chicago, and a lot of them who are here. So I'm really looking forward to this conference. Thank you guys so much for joining. Congratulations on your beautiful career so far, and I look forward to more publications, more career developments, to matches from both of you, more publications from Guilherme, and all these good things. So guys, this is the podcast of the Meta-Analysis Academy. Make sure to check our other content. Check us on social media on Instagram at metaanalysis.academy. Join our wait list if you haven't been if you're not a part of the program yet, and learn how to do meta-analysis like these masters over here. And then also subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Share this with your friends so they can be inspired as well. So this is the podcast of the Meta-Analysis Academy. I wish to see you next time. Bye-bye.